Hi everyone, welcome back to Pretty Little Garden. I am Jen, and in today's video I'm just going to be continuing on with my winter sowing project. And what my winter sowing project is basically trying winter sowing for the first time. I am in Zone 6B in Western New York, and I have never winter sowed before. So this is my first year with the winter sowing method. And so what I have been doing is attending YouTube University. And what I mean by that is I have been educating myself online via YouTube videos and also, Google searches, internet searches, reading online articles about the winter sowing method. And I've educated myself to the point where I feel confident enough to winter sow. So I'm just sharing my experience with you and sharing what I have learned with you on my journey. And I will definitely share, what I succeed with, what I fail at, and the lessons learned along the way. So I did round one of my winter sowing just a couple of days ago, maybe 4 or 5 days ago, when I shared that with you. And it's going pretty well. The funny thing though that happened is the day after I sowed my first round of seeds, we had an incredibly heavy windstorm warning. And so I was like, okay, I had put my milk jugs in my elevated garden bed and I knew that they were going to blow all over the place. So I was scrambling to find something to kind of corral them together. I ended up going into my basement and getting an exercise band, kind of like a little bungee cord. And I bungee cord my milk jugs together. And I just kind of have left them like that. I may have to move them eventually. I'm not sure. But right now they're in a good spot. They're in a full sun location pretty much. And I think they'll be fine at this time. And I'm just keeping an eye on them. So what is winter sowing? Winter sowing is the process of sowing your seeds outside in a plastic container of some kind. I'm doing mainly milk jugs, but you could use milk jugs or to-go containers, juice jugs, water jugs. Someone mentioned in my last video Ziploc bags, and I think I might give those a try. Pretty much anything that's translucent or transparent that you can at least put a few inches, like 3 to 4 inches of potting soil in. So like I said, you sow these seeds in this plastic container, and it has to have holes in the bottom and holes in the top. And you sow your seeds in that, and then you bring the container outside and you let nature take care of things for you, which I think is really amazing when I think about it. So you put the container outside. The container is fine in all the wind and all the snow. You just have to make sure you corral them together so they don't blow all over the place. But you will get snow inside your container. You will get rain inside your container. Your containers will freeze and thaw. And it's amazing that the seed will be okay. And the seed germinates when the conditions are right outside. Now, you don't want to just plant any old seed when you're winter sowing. There are a few things to consider. The first thing to consider is your area, your climate. You have to know your last frost date, your first frost date. Be familiar with your gardening zone if you're in the United States. And that is just an easy Google search. Usually you just have to enter your zip code to see what your gardening zone is, and also when your first and last frost dates are. And you also have to familiarize yourself with the seed that you are planting and the needs of that seed. There are so many variables to consider, but everyone can have success in winter sowing. So for example, in my area, I'm in Zone 6B in Western New York, and we are in the middle of winter with frozen ground and snow. So the things that I'm going to be winter sowing at this time are perennials and cool annuals, or cold hardy annuals. And that is because those are things that can survive the winter weather. They can tolerate cold weather. I am not going to be planting tender annuals or, sun-loving annuals, things that require more sunshine and warmer soil in order to germinate. Those are things that I'm going to wait until later, and I may direct sow those. I may also use the winter sowing method with those, but I have to start those seeds later. And there are directions on every seed packet, and you really can't go wrong if you really learn about the seed you are planting, do some Google searching, and just educate yourself about that particular flower or plant. So I just have a few things that I'm going to be winter sowing today, and I will share those with you, and then we will just winter sow those together. I have some more bachelor's buttons here. These are called Blue Boy bachelor's buttons, and I have heard that they're beautiful. I got these from American Seed Company at the dollar store, so they're very affordable. I've already sown, I think, 2 other kinds of bachelor's button, but I wanted to try these as well. And the reason why I knew these were okay to winter sow in my area, so I knew that these were okay for winter sowing because I had done a Google search. I have found that the American Seed Company packets that you get from the Dollar Tree, I don't find them to be very clear as to whether or not it is a cold or cool annual or a perennial even. So I find myself with the American Seed Company seeds that I've been really double checking with a Google search to make sure they're okay for the winter sowing. And they are. So that's going to be my first. The first one I'm going to winter sow today is the Bachelor Button True Blue. Okay, the next one that I have is from Botanical Interest, and it's a Snapdragon, and it's called Orange Wonder Snapdragon. And I thought that was really beautiful. And the description says, long blooming in gardens and long lasting in bouquets. Orange Wonder wows with its blazing display of peachy orange blossoms, brimmed with pink, framed by lush green foliage. The uniquely shaped, vibrant blooms are also edible and make a whimsical garnish on salads, desserts, and beverages. Adorn beds and borders to keep your garden abuzz with pollinators all season long. So I'm going to give the Snapdragon a try. It is a perennial. That's how I knew that this was a good one to try for winter sowing. It says perennial in USDA zones 5 and warmer, but it says it's usually grown as an annual. So I did actually just watch a video this morning where they were discussing the fact that the Snapdragons did not do as good with the winter sowing method for them, and they were in my same zone. So, I'm not going to let that stop me. I really do want to try it. So I'm going to try to winter sow these and just see how I do. And that's generally how I approach things. I do want to learn the best that I can about what I'm doing and make educated decisions. But sometimes educating yourself involves just trying things. Even if it could not go your way, that's just a good way to learn, in my opinion. So I am going to give the Snapdragon Orange Wonder a try. I'm also going to try this flower mix from Botanical Interest. It's called the Grandmother's Cut Flower Garden, and it's actually comprised of a lot of different things. It says a charming mix of tried and true flowers your grandmother might have grown, annuals, biennials, and perennials that will provide flowers for cutting from spring until fall, a range of colors, shapes, and textures to enliven a whole season's worth of bouquets. So some of these may not be the best for winter sowing, but there's definitely flowers in there that are appropriate for winter sowing. So I've had these since last year, so I'm just going to give it a try. I might just do half of this container and see what happens. It says when to sow outside, recommended cold climates 2 to 4 weeks before your average last frost date. So I do know that a lot of these flowers can tolerate the cool temperatures. So that's what made me think, okay, this is a good candidate to try for winter sowing. And let's see, there's several things in here. I'm just going to name a few, and they have them labeled annuals, biennials, and perennials. There's coneflower, there's cosmos, there's love and a mist, there's larkspur, there's daisies, brown-eyed Susan, celosia, coreopsis, corn poppies, Canterbury bells. I mean, it's a whole mix of things. So I'm going to give this a try as well. You know what's interesting is I'm sure all of these flowers have different needs in terms of how to sow them. Let's see what it says here. Not recommended to start inside. It says you can also sow half the seeds 4 to 6 weeks before your average last frost date and sow the second half a week or two after your average last frost date. Seed depth, it's just 1/8 to 1/4 inch. Scatter about 20 seeds per square foot and rake in. Okay, so we'll just kind of scatter those, scatter those about in the container. And the last thing I'm going to try is the California poppy. This is the extra golden California poppy. And this one is a little bit risky because I know I've learned that poppies do not like to be transplanted easily. They generally like to be planted directly in their home. But, you know, maybe I'll do some of them in my milk jug or my winter sowing container, and then I will try to scatter some as well at some point, because I have learned that poppies, you know, they can tolerate cold weather, but they are not easily transplanted. I guess their roots don't like to be disturbed, you know, so it's a little bit of a risk maybe putting these in my milk jug, but I'm going to give it a try. Here I have my supplies. You're going to need your plastic container or milk jugs, whatever you're winter sowing in. You need your seeds. I did pull out some plastic bags in case I wanted to try some winter sowing in the Ziploc bags. I mentioned this in my last video. This is a garden marker. It's UV resistant. It's supposed to last throughout the winter weather. I can attach the link to that in the description box if anybody is interested. You need duct tape, some scissors or box cutters, a knife, something to cut your plastic container with, as well as some tags, which I just cut up a red Solo cup into these little plastic tags. There are tags on Amazon as well, but this is a nice inexpensive option. And you're also going to need potting mix of your choice. I just have some potting mix that I got over the summer from my local nursery, and you need to just know that potting mix is the preferred type of soil for winter sowing. The seed starting mix is too fluffy and dries out easily and is not, you know, the ideal suitable type of soil for winter sowing. The seed starting mix also just, you know, it's not, can't tolerate the harsh winter climate as well. It's mainly used for seed starting indoors. I really think winter sowing has been a nice project to do so far during these winter months. January can get so just desolate, you know. No one is going outside, at least, you know, in my area where I live. You know, it's been very bitterly cold lately. We've had several snowstorms and we've had a lot of wind. So, you know, there's not really a whole lot going on outside. So it is nice to have something to do to, you know, bring some joy into your life, to lift your spirits. I know this is the time of year that people can feel down as well. Seasonal affective disorder, all of those different things that come into play when we're not out in the sunshine and breathing the fresh air. So this is a really nice thing to do if you're feeling that way, if maybe you're feeling a little bit down, or just longing for the spring weather. Give winter sowing a try, and it doesn't have to be, you know, several different types of seeds. You can just simply go to the dollar store, buy 1 pack of seed, get yourself 1 milk jug, and give it a try. Okay, so we're just cutting a little hole, and then I just give it a twist like that, and that's how I make the hole. And I've just been putting 4 holes in the bottom of my milk jug. I guess I will find out, considering this is my first year, I will find out if that is a good number of holes. I guess I could put 1 in the middle there, but I think 4 is okay. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is make a cut right here, and then I'm going to cut all the way around the milk jug, and you're just leaving this little space open here. It's about an inch or so, and that is what creates your hinge, and that allows you to open and close your milk jug. So I'm just gonna put a little hole there and then just stick my scissors in and cut all the way around. I also, I think this is a nice winter project I mentioned for, your mental health and to give you something to do in these winter months. See how that leaves a hinge there. I also think it's a nice way to keep moving forward in your garden. Sometimes, during the winter months, you are sort of on a hiatus, which I think is a good thing. It's nice to take a break. It's nice to settle your mind for a little bit and not always be, going and working. But it's just a small enough task to keep you moving forward and to help you keep feeling productive in your garden. Okay, so we have our milk jug all ready here. I am going to make my label. And the first thing we're going to be doing is the Bachelor's Button Blue Boy. And like I mentioned, this is a cool annual. It's a hardy annual, so it can tolerate cold weather. And I have seen other gardeners plant this. I've seen it in the garden on other people's videos, and I think it's beautiful. I got this from the Dollar Tree. So I'm just going to be making my label. Okay, I just made my label, and now I'm going to fill up my container with some potting soil, and it's about 3 to 4 inches of potting soil, which is generally about the measurement between the bottom of a milk jug and to where we cut for the hinge. And I am just going to moisten my potting soil right here in the sink in the container. I did this the other day and it gets a little bit messy, but I just don't feel like putting my potting soil in a separate container and then moving it over. Okay, so here I have moistened my soil, and it's just enough to come together like Play-Doh or a little mud pie, and it's ready for the seed. Okay, so here are the Bachelor's Button Blue Boy seeds. And that is what they look like there. And the sow depth is about 1/8 of an inch. And I am just heavily sowing these. You can turn that on, Ev. It's okay. I'll do a voiceover. Wow. Oh, if you wanted to listen to something, you could turn that on. I'm just popping in to do a voiceover at this point in the video because my son came home from school and I forgot he had a kind of a half day today. He's a senior in high school and gets out early on some days. And he's just joined me in the kitchen and is enjoying some lunch and just watching a few things on his phone. So I thought I would just let him enjoy. So I did sow my seeds. As you can see there, I pulled out a few bigger pieces that I found in the potting mix. Sometimes that happens and you can just pull those out. And I added just a little layer of potting soil on top, and I'm just going to give it a little shower of water just to water it in very gently, very brief, as you can see there. And I'm just going to get my label, put my label in, and then it'll be ready to seal it up with the masking tape. Okay, I put my label on the inside, and now I'm just going to tape it up with some duct tape. I'm also going to label it on the outside. And now we're just moving on to the Snapdragon, the Orange Wonder Snapdragon from Botanical Interest. And here I have my milk jug again, and we're just going to be cutting our holes, 4 holes in the bottom, and then we're going to be cutting around to make our hinge for the milk jug, just using a pair of scissors. And now I'm going to be filling it with potting mix. And I'm going to dampen the soil with a little bit of water, and I just work it with my hands until it kind of comes together like a mud pie or like Play-Doh. Just like that. And now let's sow our seeds. Oh, these seeds came in a little separate package. Just going to cut that open and we'll take a look at the Snapdragon seeds. These were extremely tiny. I could not believe how small they were. And I'm just sewing those on the surface, pressing them in lightly because I believe the Snapdragon needed light to germinate. And again, here we are labeling the Orange Wonder Snapdragon from Botanical Interest. And we'll place the label inside of our container. And we'll be ready to tape up another one. It's good to label in both spots, just in the event that one of the labels would wash away. You'd have the label on the inside as well. Next up is the Botanical Interest flour mix, the Grandmother's Cut Flour mix. And the method and the process is the same. But I think it's beneficial just to have the repetitive nature. Just showing you, more than once. I think it is helpful when you're trying to learn something new. There we are, getting our milk jug ready. And you see we have our hinge. We're ready to fill it with our potting mix. And I'm going to dampen the soil and work it by hand. It's just about ready. Yep, there we go. It's coming together. Okay, now it's time to look at my seed packet, and I'm noticing that the sow depth was 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. So there were all different types of flowers in this mix, and it basically just said to sow them, just kind of scatter them on top of the soil. So that is what I did, and then I'm going to cover them with a little bit of soil so that they are 1/8 to 1/4 inch deep, and then just gently water them in, although I don't think I recorded that part, but I did give them a little shower of water in, and I put the label inside, and we're just labeling on the outside as well. And we have another one finished. And we're on to our last one, which is the California poppy. This was the one that was going to be a little bit of a challenge because the poppies don't like to be disturbed, as far as I understand. I have seen where people were successful, where they did actually transplant the poppy with success, and I have seen people say it's been a struggle. So it will be a learning experience for me to see just how difficult the poppy can be. So again, the process is the same. I cut my holes. I made the hinge on my milk jug, filling it with potting soil and dampening it with some water, working my soil until it comes together and is adequately hydrated, and which I'm just about there, and then we're ready to sow our seeds. Let's take a look at these poppy seeds. Not too many that came in this package. And I read the directions, and now I'm just sowing the seeds into the soil, just using a pencil to help me along by making the hole, moving the soil around. Okay, final step, let's label and let's get this final container sealed up. Before I take you outside and show you where I put my milk jugs, I just wanted to show you what's blooming or almost blooming in my dining room inside right now. Here I have a beautiful amaryllis that's just about ready to open up. I have 4 amaryllis here in my dining room. This is an amaryllis that I had put into dormancy after it bloomed last Christmas, and I took it out of dormancy, and all I got was foliage this season. There was no flower stalk that came up. I almost think that this amaryllis needed more sunshine before it was put down into my basement, so I'll have to rethink that for next year. I also have 2 other beautiful amaryllis, big bulbs that are producing these big flower stalks, and they should be beautiful. Any day now they should be opening up, and I'll make sure to share that with you. This is a lemon cypress that I had on my back patio over the summer and brought it inside, and it's just kind of enjoying all of the bright light in this front dining room window. This is a poinsettia from last Christmas that bloomed beautifully last Christmas. It did not bloom for me this season, so just a whole lot of green going on there. And then over in the corner here, I just have some ivy that I thought I'd show you that is just in a pot in the corner here, and I also have a dried poinsettia bloom that I just stuck in there as an accent, and I think that looks nice. And then I also wanted to show you, this is a peperomia that I have potted up in the corner here on this table that is doing well, and I really love that. That's been there since last year. And let's go out and see where I put my milk jugs. I put them in the elevated garden bed on the opposite side right here. I also used a bungee cord to kind of corral those together as well. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope everyone is enjoying the winter season wherever they may be, and I will see everyone in my next video.